because the great plans we had of where to shoot ended up not working out because, well, we're not Catholic.
Well, yes. We found like this great big outdoor art, there was any number of places to choose, and got late enough in the day, it's going to be sun is setting pretty quick and it's going to get dark, and so I was like, oh yeah, pick the closest one, which happened to be a Catholic church with a real nice statue set of Jesus with the little children. Yes, it was great.
And who would have thought on a Saturday, the Adventists for sure, but the Catholics, they're all home. But no, when we got to the Catholic church, boy, it was just packed full, and
people were trying to find parking spots.
We were going to try because one of the statues was off to the side, but as soon as we even remotely considered it, people started filing in over there and pulling in, and then, so I don't know, some big Catholic holiday today, everyone's overdoing Mass. So anyway, we couldn't find a place, so we are sitting in a neighborhood in our car, and that's just the way it is. So welcome to Salt inside our car.
Yes, well,
yeah,
we got a little tired of Colby's basement.
Yeah, I thought we'd do something different. But anyway, to start things off, we're going to tell you a little story, something that happened again to me, because apparently my mishaps, fails, and injuries spark great inspiration, I guess, for moral life lessons.
But he's just a better storyteller than I am. That's why it happens to him, not me.
And we were up here with Colby and Autumn and helping to watch Athena, our granddaughter. And granddaughter Athena likes me because I can't say no to anything. So anytime she wants something, she comes to get me and leads me around and wants me to go, mostly either take her outside or turn on Bluey for television. But this particular time, we're trying to build rockets with Colby. He's just getting into the hobby, and Aspie and I have done it for a while, so we were kind of building rockets. And we're sitting at their table, and so Athena is trying to get me to get up and go over and do something for her, but I'm trying to sit there and help Colby with the rockets and everything. And so I was in there, and for some reason I stood up. I don't remember why I stood up. Either I stood up because she was trying to leave me, or I stood up to reach to get something.
Yeah, I think you stood up to reach to get something.
Yeah. And she's smart enough to know, because she can't talk yet. I don't know, she's what, a year and something?
Yeah, she talks some, but not
a lot.
18 months old, they don't talk.
Yeah. But she does kind of know what's going on. So
she knows what's going on.
She realized that we're sitting at the table, working, and if I wasn't sitting at the table, then I would go with her, was her thinking. So when I stood up...
Well, he's surmising that.
That's the only reason I can think why. And then she figured that, well, if I take away the stuff he's working on, because she was taking stuff from me and putting it on the floor and going, no. And then when I stood up to reach something, she pushed the chair out of the way. And I'm sure thinking, well, now he can't sit down, so he'll go with me. I didn't see her push the chair. And so I went to sit back down, obviously, without a chair being there. And down I went.
And that's just as he went to sit down is when I happened to walk out in the living room. So that's all that I saw.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden he's falling to the floor. I'm like, oh my goodness, what happened this time?
Yeah. And it wouldn't have been so bad, except I'd fallen a while ago and injured my arm. And it was just healing and just getting, almost back to normal. And when I fell this time, I caught myself on the same arm and sort of re-injured it now. So now I'm going back through the whole, healing process again, because it sort of re-injured it and put it back to its original hurt settings. So anyway, that's what happened. I'm an old man. I fell on the floor and everybody thought it was funny. This is what happens when you get old.
Heads up, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so that actually happened a little over a week ago by now, because last week I was trying to find an analogy that went with it, and it just wasn't working. So we went with something else. But I gave it some more thought this week, and we managed to stuff it into an analogy.
Mm-hmm.
All analogies, or most analogies, some analogies aren't perfect. Ours isn't exactly perfect, but I think you will see the how it works together. So first of all, let's take a look at the story of Eve. And the serpent tempted her with a lie. All temptation basically is a lie that we'll be happier if we serve self rather than doing what God wants us to do.
Here, we'll focus on you.
Oh.
And then I'll just lean in if I have something to say.
He told me.
I do have stuff to say, but I will just lean in.
Yes, I want you to know he told me he was going to help me a lot today.
Yes.
So. Okay, so the serpent told Eve that if she ate the fruit, she would become like God, knowing good and evil, right? Basically, he offered her a throne to sit on. Now I'm sure it was a pretty comfy chair to sit on while she believed a lie. But eventually the consequences of sin showed up. We all know how that works. And it must have been a bit of a crash landing when the chair disappeared. Because that's all that chair was made of, was a lie. And that's, we'll call that the chair of pride. And it's a lie.
So what I thought it was interesting because Eve was, Adam and Eve were in the garden, and they, were happy, and, how they had their relationship and the perspective with God. And then Lucifer, saying, you'll, eat the fruit, you'll be like God, which is like you'll be your own God, right? And so, and I thought the analogy of he's kind of giving her this idea of being like God, and sitting like God and being her own God. And, so that would be like he's building this metaphorical throne for her to sit on that's based on you'll be like God, knowing good and evil. And so this throne, and metaphoric throne is being built around a half-truth that instead of when she sits on it by taking the apple, instead of it being a nice throne of power, turns out to be a collapsible, fake throne of very weak half-truths and lies, and the consequences crash, just like I crashed to the floor. She sits in this throne of pride, and it crashes because it's built on half-truths and lies, and it was not real.
Not real, no, yeah. I wasn't going to add this to today's, but I got to thinking of it right before we started tonight. And, sometimes people will tell lies about you. And I remember when that happened to me the first time in a big way. Sometimes at work or something might be a little lie here, a little lie there, and you just go, what? And you kind of let it slide, But I remember when someone was lying about me in a much bigger way. And the first thing I wanted to do was run out and tell everybody, that's not true. That's absolutely not true. I would never do anything like that. And yet that one wasn't really realistic. And I got to thinking about it, and I thought, you know what? The truth remains the truth whether others choose to believe it or not. And so they can either just listen to that one person who's telling them their side and lying about it, or they can seek out the truth if they would like to, or they can just go ahead and choose to believe the lie. But all the same, the truth remains the truth whether they choose to believe it or not. So anyways, the Bible is full of stories of people who chose to sit on the throne of pride in their lives, and it's also full of stories of people who chose instead to sit on their chair of humility. And one basically is a life traveling on the wide path of destruction. No matter how wise it may seem, a lie will not lead you to the truth, nor will it make you wise. The chair of humility takes us down the narrow path full of truth, mercy, grace, and freedom, and love. Most of all, the love of God. And the narrow way goes on for forever. The broad path comes to an end.
Yeah, and I thought the analogy of the narrow and the broad path, like, when we get in life, and there's all kinds of opportunities to tell little white lies, little things that, make us look better or don't make us look bad, or little decisions where we can, say one thing that may be only half truth, or, an out and out, like say, a lie, that road tends to bounce around a lot, and lots of curves and lots of ups and downs and because whenever you lie, you're creating, you're creating a false path, and so you tend to have to keep going around and around and around and telling more lies to cover the ones you've already told, or this kind of thing. But with a dogged commitment to truth, it is a straight path, and it's a lot easier to travel, even though it may not feel that way in moments where it's hard to tell the truth. The straight path of truth is a lot easier to travel than the winding, meandering way of telling half-truths and lies and deceit. And, there was lots of people, like you say, in stories in the Bible of people who, doggedly stuck to the truth and went that way, and people who didn't and had to, pay some consequences.
And it's not just telling the truth, it's also living
the
out
truth.
the truth, which is basically living out the love of God, because that is truth.
And that's a much happier path to travel.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes. Uh-huh.
So there you go.
There you go. And I think we're wrapping it up with that.
All right. Well, kind of short and sweet because we're sitting here in a neighborhood and not really sure where I'm at. But
yeah, we'll make it home somehow or other.
we have Siri to guide us back home.
Or me.
Or Aspen and Miranda, who can direct me.
Sense of direction is impeccable.
And better than any GPS you could ever hope to have.
No, I get home on my sense of direction, we won't be getting in there at all.
Well, we should be back in Texas on the next Salt, so next time you see us, we'll be back home in the great Lone Star State, and so we'll be down there. So hope you had a great Christmas, a Happy New Year, and we'll see you next time here on Salt.